Tonight is on a island. It's about time I'm waking up. I told you wasn't with me waking up. Now you facilitate.
Hello and welcome to a brand new video. So today's video is going to be all about the ATI TEAS exam that I took to get into my nursing program, and I want to just talk a little bit about it because I don't see too many videos on this, and this is a very important step in anyone's journey who's like trying to enter into a nursing program. I'm not really sure if it's like for every single medical kind of career or field that you need to take this exam for, but I do know that if you are interested in becoming a nurse or anything of that matter, you have to take the ATI TEAS exam. It's like the entrance exam that pretty much lets people know, or lets your school know, if you are, I guess, equipped to handle, nursing school, equipped to handle everything that you need to be able to be successful in the nursing program. So I want to talk a little bit about it. I want to give you guys my experience, how I passed it, what I did to pass it, and all of that good stuff. My score, I'm gonna show you guys. I'm trying to cover my school name. I can do it like this. Okay, so these were my scores for my TEAS exam. So my overall score, I got a 76%. On my reading, I got a 79.5%. My math, I got a 91.2%. My science, I got a 59.1%. English and language, I got a 78.8%. So in the scale of the TEAS, like academic preparedness, I was labeled as proficient. It says that the national mean for this exam is a 65.7. So I got a really high score compared to what the national average is for this exam. And I got really high math score. I got a 91.2% on my math, which honestly, I was kind of shocked. My reading, I got pretty much an 80. English, I got pretty much an 80. My lowest score was a 59.1%. That was my science, but I have a few things to say about the science part and why I think I got a low score. But anyways, I think I did pretty good, especially for someone who took the exam literally a week before I had to take my exam. Like, I only studied like a week before my actual exam dates. And if you know anything about studying, like for the TEAS exam, you know it's a lot of information that you have to cover to be able to take this exam. It's not really necessarily hard information, especially not like the math, English, or reading. I feel like a lot of those things in those sections, if you did pretty good in grammar school and like high school with like math and reading, you will do good in these sections. Science is definitely the hardest part, but I'm going to get into each section individually and tell you like what I thought about each one. I got a 76 as an overall score. So one thing that I do want to point out is know what your school requirements are for this exam, because I had no idea that my school, they only really care about your reading and your math scores. They don't really care about your science and your English scores. Now, they still count that towards your overall score, and they're still looking into those things, but your reading and your math in my school is like outweighs the science and the English. Like the day of my exam, when I was sitting there in the room, the proctor was like, make sure you ace your English and your reading, your math and your reading, because if you fail or you get a below a 68 on the reading or the math, it does not matter if your overall score, like if you get an 80 overall, you still will not get accepted into the nursing program. So for example, if I would have failed my math section, but I still would have had the same score of a 78 with a 76, which is still a passing score, I would have not got accepted into my nursing school program. So you need to make sure what requirements your school wants for this exam, because I had no idea that was that way. I kind of thought they were just going off everything. And honestly, like, I feel like if I would have known that, then I probably would have felt less stressed about the science part and probably would have focused on just like my other maybe reading and English a little bit more, just like freshened up on those subjects more. But yeah, make sure you know what your school requirements are, because every school might be different. Maybe your school's going to focus a lot more on science, you know, so you don't want to be like bombing the sections that are really good or really necessary for you to get into your nursing school program, and you don't want to spend a lot of time studying things that maybe you don't really need to study. You know, you want to be smart when it comes to your studying and just studying effectively. When it comes to the reading portion of this test, I got a 79.5, which is pretty high. I will say that for this section, summarizing is really, you're gonna really just want to know how to summarize passages correctly. You know, be really good and comfortable with reading passages and just like really understanding what you just read. And they do have like a lot of like trick questions in there, when especially in the reading part. You want to be able to like follow directions. That's one of like the main questions that I got a lot of, was like step direction type questions, or like what should they do next, or based on these rules, what's the next step, or whatever the case may be. And I feel like that's very important, because when you are a nurse, you know, you need to be able to read instructions, read directions, to be able to administer medication correctly, or whatever it is that you may need to do, to read charts, to whatever it is. You need to be able to read, understand what you read, and also follow instructions correctly, because you know you're going to be taking care of patients. So that was like one of the main things that I saw when it came to the reading part. So just like, and not like reading like novels, like, you know, books. When I say like what's a good summary of this passage, like science type of articles, you know. So I would definitely say to maybe take time to maybe like read like some little short news articles that are like on science, health, whatever, and then ask yourself like, what's the main idea of this passage? What, you know, what is the author trying to, you know, get across? Like, what is the point of this whole passage? Like, that's what I would recommend for you. So my math was my highest score. I got a 91.2% on this. And honestly, I'm very shocked, because I'm not the most amazing person at math. I'm really not good at math at all. Well, I don't know. Like, I never felt like math was my strong suit. I always felt like reading and English was my strong suit, but I got a 91.2%. Very shocked, but I'm very happy, especially knowing that that was one of the main scores that my school was going to be looking at. I feel like it made a very good impression. So for the math, I definitely will say to know your conversions, okay? Memorize your conversions. Like, how many, you know, grams are in a kilogram? How many centimeters are in a millimeter? Like, how many cups are in a gallon? How many ounces are in a gallon? Like, things like that. Like, your conversions, like your standard conversions with weight, mass, length, know them, okay? There were a lot of questions where they kind of gave me the formula or like the conversion in the actual problem. So there'll be problems and they'll be like, how many millimeters are in these amount of centimeters? 1 centimeter equals X amount of millimeters, or whatever the case may be. So I was able to set up my proportions correctly. But there are going to be some questions where you don't have the actual conversion formula or like conversion in front of you. So definitely memorize them. Memorize as many as you can, because you never know which ones are going to ask you, and you'd rather just be prepared than not be prepared. So I definitely studied my conversions a lot, and I'm very happy that I did. They also asked me a lot of mean, median, mode, range questions, which is pretty easy. Like, that's basic elementary math that you do there. I got a lot of single variable equations, so like x plus 10 equals 35, what's x, like things like that. Bar graphs, make sure you know how to read bar graphs, scatter plot graphs, and understand what information is there, like what you're looking at. What else was there? that's pretty much like the main thing that I got tested on when it came to math. So, volume as well, like specifically with cylinders. I got a lot of cylinder questions when it came to volume. I had make sure you know how to find out like diameters of a circle, you know, your area formulas for certain types of shapes, like how to find perimeter for shapes, things like that. Especially for irregular shapes, you definitely want to focus on like how to find areas for that and perimeters for that. Areas for cylinders, spheres, like I got a lot of cylinder volume questions. And I had a very random Pythagorean theorem question in there, which wasn't a big deal, but like there was literally like all my study materials that I took, there was no emphasis for Pythagorean theorem. So it was kind of weird that I got that, but yeah, that was a question that I got. Percentages, how to find a percentage of something. Definitely know how to find a percentage of a number. Definitely know how to convert from a percentage to a decimal. You're going to need to know everything when it comes to percentages. There was such a big emphasis in all of my study materials that I had on fractions. How to add, subtract, divide, multiply, mixed numbers, and just fractions and stuff like that. When I tell you, I don't think I got any fraction questions at all. And I'm so upset because like I studied that so hard because I don't even remember the last time that I went over fractions. Like, so I was a little rough around the edges when it came to, you know, remembering how to like figure these things out. And the fact that I got no questions, I think maybe I got like one question maybe, but it was really just like from least to greatest, which fraction is the least to greatest, like, you know, ordering numbers. I was so upset. I'm like, I spent all this time studying these stupid fractions that I didn't get none. Now, I'm not saying don't study them because you might get a test where there's nothing but fraction questions. So I'm not saying don't study it, but I'm just telling you my experience. I don't think I got any fraction questions. Maybe like one or two fraction questions, but nothing so hard where it was like I had to really think about it, which I'm really, really shocked. Like, so the math was definitely pretty easy. Like, as long as you know like how to find percentages, how to convert from decimal to percentage, percentage to decimal, how to find mean, median, mode, range, and just like your basic metric conversions and like basic, you know, formulas for area and stuff like that, like you should be fine with math. My science score, which was my lowest score, 59.1. I'm not very happy for that score, but let me tell y'all what I think happened, okay? So according to, well, not according, but actuality, this is the TEAS exam that I took is the T7, which is the new version of the TEAS exam. They told us that the TEAS exam was going to have a lot more biology and chemistry in these exams now because it was mainly focused a lot on human anatomy and physiology. So studying for the science part of this exam was very, very hard. I definitely say for my experience, I got majority of my questions were human anatomy and physiology. I did get like one, maybe two chemistry questions on there, and I did get a decent amount of biology questions as well. So like cell questions, things like that, like what's the nucleus, ribosome, like all the like the cellular structures and stuff like that. I got a lot of questions of that. So what my advice would be for the science part is do not waste so much time trying to memorize like information when it comes to the science, because it's going to be literally impossible. Like, it's going to be impossible. I got so much human anatomy and physiology questions, and I took an anatomy and physiology class when I first went to college, like, because I wanted to go to school for nursing, and that's a prereq to be able to get into the nursing program. So I already took that class like in 2017. So I still, like, I have a little bit of background, like just like knowing like very basic stuff from that class. Listen, there's no way you're going to remember all of that information for an exam, okay? The cell stuff, I feel like, was probably the easiest part of the exam because it's like basic biology, like literally, like as long as you know like the basic structures of a cell, what they do, and like all of that stuff, you should be fine. Like they didn't ask me anything crazy with biology. They did ask me a lot of things when it comes to anatomy where I feel like if you just take your time to just learn the very basic anatomy and physiology stuff, you should be okay with it. But it was hard, I'm not gonna lie. That was definitely the hardest part of the exam for me. And I'm kind of upset that I didn't really get a lot of chemistry because I studied a lot for chemistry. And I expected to see more chemistry on that exam, and I didn't see any. So that was kind of sucked a little bit. My last part of the exam that I took was the English and language usage. I got a 78.8. Again, that one was pretty easy. It was just like finding misspelled words. What's a compound sentence? Like finding compound sentences. What are the subjects of a sentence? What word makes sense in a sentence? Like what's the correct word? A lot of misspelled words. So just know how to spell. Like that's really it. Like just know how to spell. Know like your basic spelling rules. Like what is it? I before E except after C. I think that's what it is. Like just like your basic stuff. Like know that. What I studied for a week before I had to take my exam. What I used to study was, I found this website called Nurse Hub online, nursehub.com. It is a subscription website. It's like $20 to join their website, but they have everything there, y'all. Like practice tests, quizzes, lessons, video. Like you have, like, I'm a visual learner. I have to see things for me to understand what's going on. I can't just read information and just like get it. Like I can read something, but then after that I'm gonna look up a video, you know? And the great thing about the world today is that YouTube exists. I use YouTube, I use Nurse Hub, and then I did buy an ATI book, TEAS exam book, the Momentrix one, and I just used it for the practice exam. I didn't read it because I just can't read all of that information and retain it. Like I'm just not gonna do that. Nurse Hub, every single subject and lesson has a video and a quiz after, plus practice quizzes on top of that. Is $20. I definitely feel like it's worth your money. And then I'm also gonna link the YouTube channels that I use below to help me. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope you know, this kind of gives you like less jitters. It's a hard test, I'm not gonna lie, but it's not impossible to not pass. Like I said, I only studied for a week before my exam and I got almost an 80. So if I can do it, you can do it. Make sure you know what your school requires, and I wish you best of luck. I'll see you guys next time.